Welcome to the program. This is Nightique. I'm Edward St. Pé. Well, let me ask you a question. Do you think that transcendental meditation might be for you? It's a phenomenon that's going on across the nation, across the planet, really. You could just name a number of people who've discovered it. Oprah Winfrey is a big proponent of TM, and in fact, I've read that she calls her staff in, and on a daily basis they do TM, transcendental meditation, before they head into the day. Jerry Seinfeld is another person who does transcendental meditation, has done it for 30 years. He credits TM with his success as a comic and as a means of giving him a means to recharge his battery before he goes out again and performs, whatever. It's really a phenomenal thing. The latest news and science about TM is indicating that as a tool in the schools, it helps the children to focus and to settle down, and all kinds of wondrous things have been accredited to transcendental meditation, TM. And tonight we've got a representative of transcendental meditation, a teacher of TM, here in the studio with us. And we're going to talk to him about TM and his work in school systems in the past. He's in the Jackson area now, and he is working with individuals, training individuals in TM, and also hopes to work with the various school systems, and bringing TM into the school system is a plan that he has. So we're going to talk to him, and we're going to find out all about transcendental meditation. So stay with us. This is Nightique. We'll be right back after these important messages. Well, back to the show. I'm Edward St. Pé. This is Nightique. Shujaa Mjasiri.
That's correct.
Thank you for being with us.
Absolutely.
Now, you are our representative from the Transcendental Meditation Movement, and you're living in Jackson now.
That's right.
Now, I am associated with Dave Lewis from the New Orleans area, who is the TM, I guess he was the district manager of TM across the Gulf Coast region. And so you're working with him, and now you're actually stationed in Jackson.
That's correct. Yes, I've known Dave Lewis now for, I don't know, but maybe 10 years or so.
And so, okay, Dave is a meditation teacher, and he taught me how to do TM. And so my knowledge of his work and our friendship, he put me in touch with you, and so you're on our show tonight.
Okay. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, you're quite welcome. You know, I think that this is something that it's a burgeoning situation. It's starting to take flight. Mm-hmm. The transcendental meditation movement, and I know it sounds esoteric and it sounds so, you know, but it's really very simple. TM is just a means of, now tell me if I'm right, but it's a means of calming the mind down in order to see things in the present and clearly. I know that's a simplified version of what it's about, but what is TM?
Okay, well, what you said is exactly right. And so the way, when I'm giving an introduction to TM, basically what we say, it's a mental technique. And it's a mental technique basically to reduce stress. And when a person is under a lot of stress, we just don't think clearly, make a lot of mistakes. Mistakes lead to failure. And so it's a mental technique. It's easy. It's effortless to practice, right? And basically, when a person is practicing this meditation, the mind starts to settle down, to become more quieter and quieter going within. Many people experience a lot of peace and tranquility when they're meditating. But what's happening is we're getting to that quiet place, and when we get to that quiet place, the body and the mind is at a phenomenal deep rest place. And of course we know from going to the doctors, when we're ill, we go to the doctor will say, go home and get some rest. So the meditation allows the body and mind a level of rest that's twice as deep as you experience in the deepest of sleep. And so you can imagine if you're experiencing that kind of rest, stress is thrown out of physiology. And when stress is thrown out, all of a sudden you'll begin to think clearer in your mind, you're more alert. And when you're more alert, we will naturally make higher quality choices in our life. Higher quality choices will lead us to success. And so that's TM in a nutshell. Many people think when you think of meditation, it's something religious about it. So I'll just note that TM is non-religious in nature. It's just a mental technique designed to reduce stress.
I wonder how it became put in a category with religion and such. How did that happen? Maybe because, well, I mean, what is the reason?
Well, you know, when I first heard of meditation, I also thought something around religion.
Yeah.
Because we're talking 34 years ago. So meditation is something that I did related to church. So when someone said meditation, I thought, okay, it's something religious to it. But when I did the practice, I realized that I didn't have to have any type of belief system. I didn't have to change my lifestyle in any kind of way. And so when we think about religion, it's generally there's a set of beliefs and there's a set of lifestyle practices that comes with it. None of that in meditation. And so I think just because over time throughout history we've kind of connected the word meditation with the religion, that people just naturally think that way. But once they look into it and actually see what it actually is, then it becomes very apparent that it's not religious in nature.
You know, when I was growing up, we were Beatles fans, right? Okay, so when the Beatles came out, after a while, as their music evolved, suddenly appeared the yogi, and you know who I'm speaking of.
Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, yes.
And he was there, he was the founder in this, he's the one that brought TM to America at that time.
That's right.
And through the Beatles, who had such high visibility, suddenly TM was on the charts suddenly, right?
Yes.
And the way he looked like maybe a religious person from the East, right?
Yes.
So I think maybe that's how TM became sort of synonymous with some Eastern religion, because he looked like a practitioner of an Eastern religion.
Well, I can see that completely.
Yeah.
Because if you go to India and you go to a meditation teacher, they're not dressed in Western attire.
Right.
They're dressed the way they dressed in India.
In India, right.
Right, you know, with the little white robes and whatever they wear there. So I can see how a person can think that. But if you do the investigation, once you do the investigation, then you'll be able to see that in terms of what it actually is non-religious in nature.
Well, the way I started was I always wanted to do it, but I never took the time to do it. So finally I started reading about it, and first I started to just plain meditate. It was not TM per se.
Sure.
It was just getting quiet and meditating. And then as I studied more and reached Dave Lewis in New Orleans, and he was coming to Jackson and doing seminars and such, then I learned the technique of TM, which is so simple. Basically, this is what I was doing. Tell me if this is correct.
Okay.
It was 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the afternoon.
That's right. That's right. 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the afternoon, twice a day. Makes a huge, phenomenal difference in the quality of our life.
It really does. And then after I started doing it, and I didn't know how pervasive it was across the world, across the country, then suddenly, almost immediately, the next few days after a few weeks, I looked up and there was a news, it was I guess the ABC Good Morning America, and the fellow was interviewing Jerry Seinfeld. About his TM practice.
Right.
And he was saying, well, I attribute my whole success to my discovery of transcendental meditation 30 years ago. And I said, holy man. And then he proceeded to talk about how it calmed him down, and it's like charging the cell phone into the charger and getting recharged again for the day. Yeah. And I thought, Wow, and you know, and I could go on and on. Oprah Winfrey does it, and her whole staff does it, and she is now instrumental in trying to get it into the schools. Yes. I've read things along these lines, and so that's what we're going to talk about too, about how TM is. What have you seen as a teacher of TM within the school systems? What have you seen? What has occurred with these children? What benefits has TM brought to the school system and the kids in the schools?
Okay, well, so I'll just say that one of the reasons that I actually went to learn and become a transcendental meditation teacher is to help students, to help kids. And particularly for me, I was drawn to kids in the urban areas. That's where I'm from. You know, grew up in Oakland, California. And so I thought I wanted to be instrumental in helping the group of people that wanted this to be in schools. So in 1987, in 2007. In 2007, I was in school, just finishing school then, doing my PhD studies. I went out to San Francisco, California, and there were a group of people out there who were trying to get meditation into San Francisco public schools. And so I went out to be part of that staff. And so and at that particular time, it was a school called Visitation Valley in San Francisco, and they were reported as one of the worst performing schools in San Francisco. In fact, you've heard of something called No Child Left Behind. They were due to be closed down the following year if they didn't raise their test scores. So we went into the schools. We taught all the students there, 6th grade and 7th grade. We did not teach the 8th grade in order to have a control group. And so what we saw within the first 3 months at this school in San Francisco was that suspensions related to aggressive behavior took a nosedive, like 50%. That caught the principal's attention. Suspensions down, because if you look at the geography of this school, they say that this is one of the most violent communities in San Francisco as well. And so aggressive behavior went down. And then next thing you know, within about 6 months or so, just referrals to the principal's office started to go down. And then I remember watching a video of a guy saying, well, we don't know if it's because the teachers are better to manage their classrooms better, or if because the kids' behavior just completely calmed down after 6 months of meditation. Well, maybe it's both, he said. Because in this case, we taught the teachers meditation. They meditated twice a day. And we taught it all the students. And we call this program Quiet Time. Quiet time in schools. Just quieting the mind down. That simple thing as providing this level of silence and rest twice a day makes a big difference in terms of focus. Now, about a year later, what we found was that the test scores in that school had risen. Just enough to keep that school open another year. They didn't get closed down. The program now has been in that school about 5 years. And so what we found, just as a comparison, is that this school, which was one of the worst performing schools in San Francisco, is now competing with your middle class schools in San Francisco in terms of test scores. Now that's phenomenal results in terms of meditation.
And we're going to talk more about that, the school systems, and about the TM technique in general for viewers who might want to learn it. Here's an opportunity, and we'll be right back with more Nightique after this.
Since 1849, Carter Jewelers has been a part of Jackson's rich history. Over 163 years later, we've not only survived, Carter Jewelers has flourished. From generation to generation, we've established a tradition of excellence. Our reputation is built on customer satisfaction, service, and trust. Every piece of jewelry is handpicked, so you know you're getting the best value.
Nobody says I do like we do at Carter Jewelers.
Come see us and be part of our history.
Well, we're talking to Shujaa Mjasiri, and we're talking about your 30-plus years in the Transcendental Meditation system.
Right.
And how you've been working with schools and seeing great effects with helping kids calm down and concentrate and focus, which seems to be what's needed out there in the schools. We need the kids to study and be focused, right? And TM helps.
TM absolutely helps. In fact, schools spend a lot of money on exterior types of things to help students. And so meditation is one of the things that actually deal with the student himself, because many students will come from homes that are just highly stressed. And when they're at school, they're just acting out whatever the stresses they've experienced from being at home or in their communities. In fact, when I was in San Francisco, it wasn't that uncommon to find a student who maybe have witnessed a murder, or a student that someone in his family was in prison, or someone that he was related to had been robbed, or it was just pervasive in the community. Yeah. And so, lots of stress, and I can't really say enough that the stress is one of the components that really allow the students not to perform so well in school.
Right. Well, it's almost like you're dealing with, in a constant state of post-traumatic stress syndrome, and you're not even aware of it. These poor children are their whole lives, or they see the violence, they're living through day-to-day terrible things. How can you not expect that to come out in their normal life, because they're living it, for God's sakes, Yeah. This is like a forced quiet time where you go internal and calm down.
Except I wouldn't say forced.
Right. Or maybe enforced. In other words, if you're in the program, if you've got to do the quiet time twice a day, they might not have the opportunity otherwise, right? Unless it's in the program.
Well, let me just say a little bit of actually how it works. So when we go into a school, meditation is completely voluntary.
Voluntary.
Only the students that really want to learn will sign up to learn. And it's a sign-up process. They sign up, their parents have to sign off on it.
Right.
And then we teach them. My experience has been we generally have about 90-95% of the students that will, because we actually make it fun for the kids. Generally, students around 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, they're not running towards meditation, because meditation is inwardly focused. They're naturally outwardly focused. And so we have to connect the meditation with fun activities that they do, that they can do.
All right, so how do you get them to get interested in it? There must be some key there.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we know, because I said they're not naturally drawn to that, even though they enjoy it when they're doing it. But we'll set up some promotional activities. For example, if the kids actually meditate for so many weeks or so many months, we'll have a pizza party. And the kids love pizza. Or we might go out and take them out for a movie. The kids love to go out and have field trips that are fun field trips like that. So we have these types of incentives. Even I've taken kids bowling, roller skating, these types of things after many weeks and months of them successfully sitting there. So they're sitting there, rather than thinking about how boring it might be, or I don't want to meditate, they're thinking about, oh, my friends are doing it, and I'm going to get a chance to participate in the pizza party if I just sit and meditate. So that allowed them to control themselves.
So when I first started doing it, I guess I was doing mindful meditation, which is maybe a more basic version, where you concentrate on the breathing, and that's how you get quietened down. Then I discovered with TM, I was given a mantra, which is a word that you concentrate. Instead of maybe concentrating on your breath, now you're concentrating on the word, the mantra, which you gradually go deeper into a restful state.
Right.
And so now, I think from what I've learned, it's hard to quieten the mind down, because even when you're trying to go into the peaceful state, your mind is thinking about 1,000 things. I got to go to the post office. I've got to go to the bank.
Absolutely.
And then I got to get to work. And what happens when I get to work? We got to do that. And so, you're thinking about these things. You're trying to calm down. You're trying to think of nothing, but yet your mind is seeing all these little visions of thoughts. I guess the key is, and it's okay that happens.
Absolutely.
When you're aware that it is happening, you bring yourself back to focus with the mantra and calm it down again, right?
Well, what you said is almost right.
Okay.
But let me just say a few words to correct some words that you actually said that's not connected with transcendental meditation. The first word is concentration. It's not a concentrative meditation, and so we don't do anything related to concentrating. The second word you said was trying. It's not a technique where you bring any type of effort or try to do anything. In fact, the instruction is do not try to meditate. And it's a very important instruction. So basically, the mantra is more of a sound than a word.
Right.
So we know that sound has an effect on the physiology, right? If I was to have a blackboard in front of me and I was going to scratch the blackboard, it's going to be not pleasant. What if I'm at home listening to my favorite music? It's going to be very pleasant. So sound has an effect on the physiology. And so a meditation teacher is trained to select a sound that has the effect of relaxing the mind and body, of this relaxation. And so we're actually just thinking the sound, and then in doing that, the mind naturally relaxes. It naturally starts to go that quiet place, very, very naturally. You know, it's similar to like being on a diving board. The diver on the high dive, what does he have to do? Take a correct angle and let go. Taking the correct angle meditation is just thinking the mantra and then let go, and everything else happens on its own. It's very natural, and that's why it's so easy to do, because there's nothing to do in meditation except think the mantra.
Do the mantras all have the commonality of Om sound?
No.
They do not.
Do not.
Okay, I was just wondering.
But of course, you know, we have heard that when we think about meditation, you know, we think of Om because that's in the public eye, but these particular meditation sounds or mantras are not related to Om.
Is Om a universal sound of the universe? It's everywhere across all planes, the word or the sound. Have you ever heard that?
You know, I really don't know, to be honest with you, about that. But of course, you know, growing up in this country, I have heard many people, when they think of meditation, they think of Om.
Of Om, yeah, as a sound, as a universal sound.
As a universal sound.
I was just wondering, because it seems to be, you know, a sound that it's everywhere you look. There's a more Om, you know,
Yes.
You hear that sound.
But what I can say is, in terms of the sounds that are given in meditation, they're not around or related to Om.
Okay, 30 or so years ago, when you were a very young person and you discovered TM, what was your life like at that time, and what changes did you see?
Okay, well, as I mentioned earlier to you that I spent a lot of years going to school in Oakland, California, very close to San Francisco. And I grew up in not so pleasant neighborhoods. In fact, you do the research in Oakland schools, I think probably today maybe 30% of students that start in 9th grade graduate 8th grade. So I went in, you know, so I was in that kind of that school system. And so when I think about my life as a young man, what I just remember was that I was always angry about something. Meaning, by the time I got over the anger of this one thing, another thing had happened and I was angry again. So I was always angry. And you know, I didn't like being angry. I didn't want to be angry. I was just angry. And so that's what my life was about. I was one of the ones that actually graduated from high school. But when I was tested, I was reading and writing at 5th grade level. Basically couldn't read or write after spending 12 years in school. And fortunately for me, I wasn't one of the troublemakers, because the troublemakers, ones that got kicked out or dropped out or whatever, so I finished school, but just basically they couldn't go out into society and function. And so I decided that, you know, I was going to go to a community college and learn to read and write. So it was there at the community college when I was taking what they call remedial classes, learning how to actually read. A fellow came and gave a presentation that I was a part of, and he talked about this meditation as something that can completely increase the quality of your life and your success in life. And so that is the thing. I sat down to meditate for the first time, angry that day as normal, and within 10 minutes of meditating, thinking the mantra, I could feel I can feel the anger going out of my body.
Now, in our area, if anyone would like more information, can we put up the email address for Shujaa? And this is how you contact Shujaa for the school systems and if you have an interest in personal meditation. Thank you for being with us.
Absolutely.
Now that was a quick show, wasn't it? But so much information, and it's a wonderful technique, and we hope that we have brought that to you tonight and that it will be helpful. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Nightique.
Since 1849, Carter Jewelers has been a part of Jackson's rich history. Over 163 years later, we've not only survived, Carter Jewelers has flourished. From generation to generation, we've established a tradition of excellence. Our reputation is built on customer satisfaction, service, and trust. Every piece of jewelry is handpicked, so you know you're getting the best value.
Nobody says I do like we do at Carter Jewelers.
Come see us and be part of our history.
Well, we've been talking to Shujaa about meditation. He's a TM teacher, and you're in Jackson right now, and you're working with the public. Specifically, what you've seen TM do in the schools, I guess we've talked about it tonight. It's been a remarkable thing that you've seen occur with the school children, right?
Absolutely. TM increases test scores. That's what schools want. But more importantly than that, it actually increases the quality of life of the students, allowing them to make better choices, to have more success in their life. And that's, for me, is more important than test scores.
And we've got an email address once again. You can always go to nightique.com and email us, and I'll put you in touch with Shujaa, and there's his email address. Thank you for joining us tonight on this edition of Nightique.